we didn't even think about it. It's like, we can't even think about stuff we should be doing, we're just gonna wait till next year. And we'll hope that it's a better climate, a better whatever, next year. So next year, there's more, it's not a 1 year, we need a several year plan of not only just to tread water, to say, where do we wanna go, what do we wanna look like? But this is our approach right now for this first year of that multi-year plan. And so, you know, we've managed in a very tight cost range. We have very little control over the funding side.
I'm gonna add to that, John, because I think, you know, your point about this is not a 1 year problem, this is going forward because of the irregularities and the unpredictability from the state. And so when I think about, okay, given we can't necessarily control that, we just can only focus on what's going on in our town, you know, we as a town have to decide, do we figure out some kind of solution and work together as a community and work together with the town council to fund education? And yes, you know, not everybody, a $400 difference in taxes could be really painful to some people. I recognize that. And I think that's where the town steps in. And we need to develop some sort of, whether it's the circuit breaker program, some kind of system where we help each other out. I've said this several times now, we're at a crossroads. And, you know, what's going on in the town is positive. What's going on with the schools is positive. The town can continue its course because it can rely on the tax money. We can't rely on the revenue from the state. All we can do is rely on the taxpayers. So we need to decide as a whole how we're going to go forward so that it doesn't suffer, because honestly, the two, as I've said before, the two go hand in hand, and the success of the schools impacts the success of the towns. And I'm just going to say one more time, the plug for currently the Town Comprehensive Planning Committee is going on. It's been going on for over a year. It's ending, it's going to come to an end. It's going to present a plan to the town council at the end of this year. Now is the time for community members to weigh in and say what they want this town, what this town stands for, what they want this town to stand for. Do you want your schools to maintain? Do you want your schools to be, you know, held as examples for other school districts in other states? I do. Now's the time. Now is the time. We're at this point. We've got to all come together and figure it out. So that's what I want to say.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to follow up to what Howard said about where our frustration should be directed. And I mean, this is so frustrating, and we've been doing our due diligence. We've looked at, there is no stone left unturned. The budget is conservative, and we are now left fighting amongst ourselves. And I'm asking myself, why is this happening here? And it's really happening because the state has refused to do what the voters of the state have asked them to do, which is fund education at 55%.
Right.
Repeatedly, they're refusing to do it, and they're pushing the issue down to the local level, and now here we are in Cape Elizabeth with a conservative budget year to year, and we're fighting amongst ourselves. And when ultimately, we all agree that we want the schools to be funded properly. And I feel like if we take what the state is doing and see that number that's so frightening and react and say, oh no, we need to make these cuts that are so damaging, we're doing the state's bidding to dismantle public education effectively. And I don't think, if I were just a taxpayer or a voter sitting on the sidelines, I would be saying, please don't cut the budget. Let us vote. Let us vote on it. Because I think the town does have, I believe, and we will find out, you know, the town believes in the school as being a sort of our shining star of the town, and I think they deserve the opportunity to make that decision. And I feel, like you said, Susanna, that we're here to represent the schools and to be advocates for the students. And to make these cuts that are so clearly damaging, just to react to the financial aspect we're not doing our job. I think that it's up to the voters to make that decision.
Elizabeth?
So I wanted to speak similarly, as I think about why I ran for school board, why was I elected to do this job? It's because I am a staunch advocate of public education, because I believe in the highest quality education that we can provide for our students. It is the job of the school board to be good stewards of the schools, to advocate for the students and the staff. That is our job. That is what we are supposed to do. We don't exist in a bubble or, ignore what other factors are going on in the town. And so we have this discussion. We think about all members of our community. We all work together. The difficulty lies in the fact that the school board actually can't solve that problem. And the wish, the desire, the hope is that we can come together as a community and work together. There are opportunities and ways for us to take care of our vulnerable community members, and I believe we should. Just because I'm elected to take care of the schools doesn't mean that I forget about fixed income people, but that doesn't mean that it's on the burden of the children to solve that problem. It's actually on the burden of the town. And there are ways to solve that problem. And in fact, I'm really happy to learn that the town council is discussing ways to solve that problem. I believe on April 9th, there's yet another discussion of a property taxpayer assistance program, kind of a circuit breaker program. So I hope people will understand the broader context of this discussion as it applies to that discussion and show up for that conversation as well, so that we can all work on supporting and taking care of our vulnerable community members, but not at the expense of our children.
I'm just gonna add something to what you said, Elizabeth, which is, I believe that we are being fiscally prudent and thinking of even the people who struggle the most with tax increases by keeping our schools strong. Because if our schools suffer, if they can't maintain at minimum, it's gonna impact everybody, including those who have trouble, covering the taxes. So I feel obligated to, do our job as we've been asked to do for the sake of maintaining the school's strength, which affects everybody, even if it requires hardship from taxpayers. It all goes around to the same point, and I think the fiscally prudent thing is to keep schools strong.
I'd like to follow on from it and talk a little bit about the responsibility and we have to be careful about what the real cause of this is. This is our budget, but that's not our tax increase. Our budget is up 3.2%. The people who caused that 10.4% tax increase are sitting in Augusta. They handed us the bomb and it exploded, and they want us to fight amongst each other about which one of us is to blame. And we've already done that. We've already taken things out of the budget we should have been considering, like that architectural study, because we need our buildings done. We took that off the table. We already took the bait a little bit. We're doing just what we can to get by, and that's why I say this is a multi-year problem. We have to do more than we're doing now. But, that increase is not our number. That happened months ago in Augusta when they changed the formula. We didn't do that. We kept our budget flat. There's contractual increases, everybody experiences that. Look around at every single school budget here and elsewhere, up just about the same number or more. That's not our increase. And if we want to follow their lead, we wanna hear that from the voters, I think. Because we stand for these schools, and our job, like you said, is stewardship. And, you know, I feel already that have not necessarily even been as good a steward as I could be, because I haven't considered things that actually could improve it. We've just been in that situation, that's been in the situation, and I feel in some respects, you know, already lost that inning of the game. But I don't wanna lose the whole game. So I think we need to keep it as best we can, as intact as we can, so we can move forward over several years and build it to where we want it to be.
John, can you repeat that thing, what you just said, because I think it bears repeating, which is, we could do so much more. Your point about,
Yeah, no, we looked at the situation. When the numbers came in, and they don't give you the numbers for a long time, so it sort of explodes on you. And there are things that we looked at that say where it would have a really positive impact, like doing the architectural study that would improve the buildings that we have and allow them to live out their full useful life. That's just not the environment where we can do that right now, and that pains me to do that. But I think that is the reality, and that's why I say this has gotta be more than a one-year plan. We're gonna be back next year, and those things still need to get done.
and another example, you know, of something we would love to incorporate is what, the IB program?
Mhm.
The back.
Yep.
Thank you, because I can't say that word. but-
And as a resource officer.
Oh, and yeah, no, I'm just saying, for sure that, but in the future, like, you know, who knows? We want to keep growing, we want to keep being the best we can be.
So, shifting just a tiny bit, in trying to be responsible, can I ask some clarifying questions to you, Howard, a little bit? We talked about what it would be to bring it down to 5.5
Mhm.
and how drastic that would be. And just being prudent and understanding, to get it down to a 9% for expenditure of 2.1, so a 9% tax increase, so the second
Mhm.
column there, we would need to make cuts. And what kind of cuts would be required for something like that? Are those teaching positions? Do you know what kind of cuts would be required to bring
Well,
it down to 9%?
it depends on a number of things. One is, I know this isn't your question, but if you were, one thing I would like to do, if it is all possible, is get at least one custodian in the budget, which we don't have right now. We were asked for two custodians and one maintenance.
Right,
And we were asked for that last year, and we thought we did it, and we didn't.
right.
So I'd like to somehow figure out a way to at least get one more custodian in this budget somewhere. So just know that it becomes harder and harder to do with the more the lower the budget.
Right.
So to get to your question, you know, if it was acceptable, I think that Perry Schwartz says that he could come up with up to $240,000 by delaying the Pond Cove Playground and a number of other projects. That would gain almost all of it. It's also very unfortunate. But I think that people would say that they would rather put on hold the playground than have people lose their jobs. And so I think there's a way to, if you were to end up at 9, I think there's a way to not take that much out of the capital improvement project, not take out 240, and maybe get a custodian and do what we can to preserve jobs. I mean,
So can I stop you there first, Howard? It doesn't preserve jobs, we're preserving the programming that these people in their jobs are doing.
Right.
So it's not just the jobs. I mean,
Right.
we're the providers of education, and they're part of the programming that we put forward, you know, although they are, you know, some of them may be part-time.
Right,
So,
right, so programs.
So it's not until the third column, I know this is general and I'm not holding you to it or anything.
Right.
But it's not until the third column when the tax rate goes down to 7% where the programming or the jobs are being
We're into programs.
at that point,
At that
but
point,
at the 9%, you're thinking we might be able to skate by without affecting those pieces.
Mhm.
And I recognize that there's other stuff that will have to
Right.
suffer as a result, and I can't imagine your CIP, Perry, going down. So,
Yeah.
Elizabeth?
thank you.
In any of these columns, would that include possibly absorbing positions that are being retired from?
That's right. There's one part-time position at the high school. Part of that is being absorbed, and part of it is, our recommendation is gonna be to take a part-time job and turn it into a full-time job. So it's a net reduction, but it's not equal to the full-time, the part-time person's job that is due to a retirement, if I'm being clear. And my thinking is that we do absorb a job at Pond Cove where a teacher is retiring.
And would that be in
I don't
all
know,
three columns?
I have no idea if someone would take that job, but somehow in there, I think that we.
Within the whole? And is that already figured into,
I don't know, is it?
It's not.
It's not. So I think that,
so that could get close in that
Mhm.
9% column as well?
mhm.
So, I think if we look at this, like I said, as more than a one-year plan, and are clear about what we're doing to bring it in like this, I think that taking and it's not real savings, it's just delay in terms of the capital projects. They're not going away. If anything, they're gonna go up in cost. But taking those and saying, given our situation, given where we stand, we can push these out for now, knowing they're coming back next year. They have to. Those capital projects are not going away, and eventually they'll become safety concerns. So, I think that would be a viable place to go, to be able to do as much as we can and still preserve as much as we can. I'm not happy about it, but I think it's something we ought to consider.
So you're talking about the basically $361 increase per year,
The second
Yeah,
column.
right.
which would be about $30 a month
Per household.
per household.
Not per head.
No, per household at the meeting.
So, as we're naturally working towards this, the focus of the endpoint of this meeting is to get direction to Howard and administration. And I can understand the reasons why we would, delay on some CIP projects, but they're gonna be back, and there could be more next year. And I don't want to misrepresent us delaying that this year and putting it on next year and making next year look like a
There's
whole.
not a happy answer, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel it shouldn't be cut out. I feel it should be included. So what I'm saying is I'm comfortable with my position of saying 10.4% is the most fiscally prudent request.
Obviously, you're not gonna vote on this tonight.
No.
But, maybe what you could do is just get a sense right now by raising hands, how many support that, and then just kind of get a feel in here where you all are, and then talk about wherever the majority of you are, talk about that.
Yeah, and I wish I didn't say 10.4, I wish I said 3.2, so I'm gonna make it back to 3.2.
I have a suggestion. Maybe we can start in the far right column and see how the board feels about that. My guess is that that's gonna get knocked out, boom, right away. And then my guess is if you go to the second to last comment, I don't know, let's find out.
Let's find out.
That's a good idea.
But,
I like it.
I think we can work our way from the
Narrow
most
it down.
extreme,
Okay,
because I will start and, well, you can ask for the vote.
all right,
Poll.
so straw poll, beginning with the current proposed lowest budget at a
1%
a
total cut.
negative 1%. Any supporters? Seeing none, move on. The next possible option is a 0.3% increase in spending. Any takers? Okay. Moving on to the third of fourth current options, an increase of 2.1% in the budget. Who is in favor of that?
I'm considering it.
Yeah.
It's not in favor.
Half-hearted
Consider.
support.
Yeah.
That's three.
So that's three,
That's four.
Can we do it again then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
One,
I thought I saw
two,
four.
oh, four,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Consideration.
Okay. So, anybody higher for 10.4?
So I would also raise my hand, I would support either.
You
of
would
those.
support
Yeah.
10.4 as well?
No, I'm saying anybody
One.
higher for 10.4? Oh,
So
yes,
everyone would-
10.4.
Yeah, I think, so you got four who would sign on to this, and everyone would also sign on to that. Is that- Everyone who's.
That's seven.
Everyone who's sort of weak here, and would also do that, is what my impression is. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
I think
let's
it's
talk
between
it
the
out,
two
I
left
guess.
columns.
Yeah.
Might be worth it for Howard to prepare both.
This might be a good moment just to take a pause and see if anybody in the audience wants to
That's a great idea.
Yep.
speak.
I don't really have much to say. I was just, as I'm sitting back here, I'm thinking about how those increases look over years. You know, you said you've done, what, 1.5, 3 point whatever.
Yeah.
Is there a table that shows that this is what the increase to the budget was, this is what the tax increase was?
Yeah, that's right here.
Do I have that?
You don't have,
You
if you
might
get
have
the
gotten
previous ones,
it
yes.
a couple nights, not the last budget meeting, but the one before.
Okay. I mean, I think that's something that the public
You wanna see
would,
what it
would,
looks like?
would benefit from understanding
There's a
that,
graph.
okay, so you've done a 3.2 increase, what was the tax increase? Could maybe just read what those were in terms of the property tax increase, sure.
Do you want us to read that right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear what it is, I mean, just so people know.
So in 2014, the 2014-2015 budget was a 3.2% increase. That translated to a 4.4% tax impact.
Okay.
2015-2016 was a 1.3% budget increase and a negative 2.3% tax impact. That was an unusual year where the state gave money back after the budget referendum had happened, and that money doesn't get put back into the budget, it gets given back to the taxpayers. 2016-2017 is a 3.2% budget for a 3.6% tax impact.
I mean, I think that number is significant to understand that you're looking at a 3.2 increase in the school budget, a 3.3% increase in the tax. We're looking at the exact same thing this year, and we're looking at this large
That's
tax
it. We're
increase.
looking at
And I think that's what the
3.5.
public really
Yeah.
has to understand, is that
Yeah.
the state money has disappeared. And that really puts into perspective, I think, what you're trying to do. So, thank you for reading that, yes.
Am I correct in saying that the state is now only paying 9%? Giving us 9% of support for our budget? Am I feel like that number's starting to rise.
We're getting 1.2 out of 25 million.
Yeah,
It's actually 7.95%.
okay. So out of our budget, the only support we get from the state is 7.9, you just said?
Yep.
7.9% when it's supposed to be 55%.
Yeah,
Well,
well, I mean,
Well,
sort of.
No, I should rephrase that.
Oh, and I
Right.
need to clarify, the 7.95% I said is of EPS, and the total for EPS is like 16 million. Our budget is 24 million, so technically they provide even less
Right.
towards
Okay.
our budget.
So that's just clarification of how little
And how
How
much it has
little?
shrunk over the years.
and how much it's shrunk over the years. And so to your point, what you were just saying, Wynn, is that it's essentially flat, as John has mentioned several times, but unfortunately, the burden comes to us.
Yes.
And then we have a decision as a community and a town, what do we want to do? Do we want to rise up and support that or not?
And I think you can also look, I mean, by per pupil expenditure in our district is not way out of whack in any way with the rest of the state. And that is important also to note. And so you're getting pretty good bang for your buck, I think, here. Thank you.
Just for, our current budget, the one that was just adjusted, and our current state support, you're just under 5% contribution from the state.
Okay, tell them, not me.
So 4.9% with this current budget,
Yeah.
which would be a 10.4%.
Yep.
So the local contribution then is 95.1% local contribution. So again, your conflict is not with us. It lies elsewhere. And, we're not the only district who feels this. There are other districts around the state who have similar but less extreme problems.
Would anybody else like to come up and speak?
I don't have a question as much as I have a statement. I'm Terry Patterson. I know most people up there. I have 2 boys in the school system, collectively about 18 years of experience, between the two. So I've seen a lot. First, I want to say thank you. Our kids are worth it. The work that we're doing as teachers, as administrators, as staff is worth it. You guys were elected to help support our kids and to do everything that you can possibly do to help them. And I know things get contentious and it feels like there's not a lot of middle ground. I think there is. And I think that the teachers that are sitting here, the students that we all have of our own, that we work with every day, make this hard work really worth it. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone in the room for doing the work, for putting up the fight. And I would like to think that we have more control about what happens on the state level. I don't think anyone here thinks that it's the work of you guys that's put us in this situation. I think we all know why we're here. It makes me want to get more involved and try to figure that out, and to rally other people to do the same. But for now, for right here, there's a lot of work to be done, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Comment, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just have a question. When will you guys vote? And I guess as a follow-up to that, I would support the 10.4% increase. And what can we do to support you guys in making that decision?
Well, thank you for asking that. That's a good opportunity to tell you. So we are going to take a formal vote as a school board on the budget that we will present to town council eventually. That vote is going to happen on Tuesday, April 10th. And then what happens after that is we give the budget binders to town council. They have until, well, they will have review it, and we'll have a preliminary meeting with them on April 12th, just to have a more relaxed conversation about the budget. And then where not necessarily everybody from town council will be there. Some people, it was an added meeting, so some people might be out of town. But on Tuesday, April 24th, that is when we have our first official formal presentation of the school board budget to town council. And then we might have a meeting the next night, depending on how things go. And then I forget when town council has to vote on our May 14th is when town council has to vote one way or the other. Elizabeth?
There's a public hearing, so the speaker asked how to support.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's before the 14th.
No, I know. So I'm just going through some of the dates of what's up ahead. So we, as a board, vote on April 10th. What you can do in the meantime is encourage everybody to get educated. Encourage everybody to figure out for themselves, for their families, how they feel about some of these numbers that we're presenting. and then have these conversations at home, have these conversations with each other. And then I would say, once you determine where you are as a family, let town council know how you feel. Let us know how you feel. As Elizabeth was saying, we are going to have a public forum.
I was talking, I'm sorry, the town council has a public hearing on the budget
On May
before
7th.
they vote.
Yes.
It's a different date.
Okay, all right. So,
Budget public hearing.
so there's two opportunities here, but the biggest one would be, I was gonna say that on Wednesday, April 12th, the day after we vote our budget, we're going to have an opportunity for a public forum at 9 in the morning and one at 6 in the evening to, you know, any friends or neighbors of yours who may not know how they feel about the budget, this will be an opportunity for them to come ask questions and figure out for themselves, if they're undecided, what they feel about the tax increase. So what we want everybody to do is have a position. Like, we want everybody to be clear on how they feel and how they value education in this town. Because once town council goes to vote, which is Monday, when do they? town
First, they have
council-
the public hearing.
The public hearing is the town council has a public hearing on Monday, May 7th. So this is the opportunity, and that is the date to remember to come out, because this is before they vote. This is when supporters of the budget, whatever budget it is that comes forward,
Supporters or opponents or, yeah, but that's what it'd be heard.
right, on
That's the
Monday,
meeting.
May 7th. That's the big turnout date. But I would say, before that, it's equally important to let your town councilors know how you feel, if you've determined how you feel. Because sometimes people, you know, make up their minds before that Monday vote. So I would say get informed, get educated, pass on any information, have conversations, and share your feedback with town council. But definitely let them know before and by Monday, May 7th. Would anybody add anything else to that?
Oh, I was just gonna say, longer term, this isn't a big state, and I think anyone in Cape Elizabeth and any other district that's being impacted in this way should be, if you see your state legislator in the supermarket, you should say, why didn't you fund public education? Why did you vote for a budget that didn't do this? And make it a priority. You know, we need to really focus on that issue and not, you can't say you're in favor of public schools and in favor of funding them if you're not voting in a way that actually executes on that position. And that's ultimately how we got in this position, is they're not following through with what we asked them to do.
And I would say there's a gubernatorial candidate forum here on April 3rd. I would love to see funding public education as a significant issue in the upcoming elections. I think it's an important thing to discuss. I'm not saying how it'll turn out, but
It's somewhere in this building.
so April 3rd is.
In the auditorium?
Yeah.
The gubernatorial candidates night, I think the students are doing?
That may be in the auditorium. I was gonna say town council chambers, but I don't
April
think so. I think
3rd,
it's in the auditorium.
Oh. Okay.
So Howard, do you feel comfortable with?
Well, if I understand the charge, what I'm gonna do is come back with a budget that has a overall increase at 2.1, and show you what's in the budget, what's out of the budget. I mean, there's no reason to do two budgets.
You've already got
If you aren't happy with that one, then you can decide which way you wanna go, but I'll concentrate on 2.1. That sound okay? And I'm gonna move some things around,
Mhm.
but I'll show you what's moving around.
Yeah.
Okay. 2.1 increase is the budget that is a 9% tax rate increase.
Yeah. They look very
Because we
smart.
already have sheets. We
Yeah.
already have the original baseline.
Yeah, we have that first
It's done.
Right.
So, Susanna, once the council adopt whatever the budget is, and what can the citizens do, there's more work to be done afterwards as well, where the public and citizens have to vote as well on the budget, is that right? Or once the council accepts it, it's a done deal? Yeah,
No.
so there's more work needs to be done as well.
Turning out at the polls.
Thank
Yep.
you. Yeah, right. So whatever gets voted on by town council, the next and final step is showing up at the polls to vote. And hopefully it will be a figure that we're happy with. There is always the ability, when you do vote, to indicate how you feel about what's being presented, whether you think the budget's too high or too low, even regardless of how you vote. That's important feedback for the town, and so thank you for bringing that up, because that is sort of the next step in all this, is showing up.
And the board does pay attention to that advisory question about too high, too low, just right.
Yeah.
Can I ask one, too?
Sure.
Can I ask one follow-up question? Hi, my name is Joy Smith, and I have a kindergartner, so in it for the long haul here. I wanted to ask, so if the budget that you propose to town council gets voted down, do they then throw it back to you and you get to make changes, or do they make the changes? You get to make the changes.
Do you want
No,
to answer that?
I believe that they ultimately would set a total budget and not get into the details of what, how
Got
that
it.
money is expended. But I think what ultimately, they would take a budget to the voters that they wish to support.
Got
You're
it.
saying if it's turned down,
Yeah.
what
The first
happens?
step is
They say
it's no,
no.
and they say come back with another number.
Yeah.
Right.
They say no, it doesn't usually get higher. We usually,
We
Right,
come
so
back
then
and
you
work
can
it.
go through, so I guess where I'm getting is it advantageous to go low and get it approved by town council? Is it advantageous, the 9% versus the 10%, tax increase?
Mhm.
Is it advantageous for the school board to go low and get it approved, no big deal? Or is it
Mhm.
advantageous to go to the 10.4 and say, this is what we really need, and then you have the leeway
Right.
to then pull out the playground, for instance?
Right.
That's,
It's a good question.
It is a good question, and my immediate response to that, and everybody else please chime in, is that it's debatable which approach is best.
got it.
So,
Also, can I just say that,
Yeah.
thank you for the work that you're doing.
Oh.
This is my first budget meeting, so I have lots of questions, but I'll be back.
Thank you. John, do you want to say something?
I'll echo what one of the former school board members said. I think it was eloquent. He says, the budget number is the budget number. It's what you believe in, and you find the number that you believe in, the best that you think, matches with what your view of the stewardship over, and what you were elected to do, and that's the number. That's the number. There's not a, and that's how you should be voting, at least for me anyway. And if you have to do something else other than what that is, you do, but I think everyone should be voting what they believe in, and that, what the administrators believe in. Because I don't think there's any way you can do it, because when you get down to the margin, it's like, you believe in that number or you don't. It's not.
Heather? So my opinion in answering that question, which is clarified to me, because I asked a similar question in one of the past meetings of why not go for it? Why not, what even happens if the town council turns let's say the town council says, great, go for this, and then we bring it out to the people and vote, and the townspeople don't want to pay those taxes. What harm is there in that? And I think the very resounding reasons that make this a very delicate balance is that we're dealing with some people, a little bit less as we talk about the 9% versus the 10.4%, but if we talk about eliminating jobs and we wait and wait and wait and then are forced to do it later, then and people are going to lose their jobs anyway, there's a lot less compassion in that. They lose their opportunities to find another job. So to be mindful, I don't think I'm saying this well, but to be very mindful and say, okay, realistically, and that's what all this deliberation and conversation is about, to figure out how we feel realistically and hearing from people in the public. But do we think a 10.4% increase will fly? I'm just saying that maybe it won't. And then okay, if we're gonna have to cut people, I'd rather make that decision now and give teachers a chance to find work, as opposed to, sometimes it's too big of a risk. I think tonight we have sort of clarified that we feel confident in numbers that are not going to risk many jobs, but I think that's one of the considerations in this piece that may have people on the board, myself, I would say, at the very least, contemplating, oh, I don't know if I wanna go for the hire because there's people and their work and their livelihood that's at stake. And so it might be beneficial, if that's the direction that we really believe this whole process is headed to get there a little bit sooner rather than later. I think all of us feel very hopeful right now that we will get this out to referendum and that the townspeople will support this, and so we're not going in that direction. I don't know if that made sense, I hope it
That
did.
definitely makes sense. I guess that because I wasn't here at the previous meetings, I didn't realize that so is the 10.4% or I guess I should be referring to what you're, the 3.2%?
Thank you.
Yes.
That increase does not cut teacher
That holds it
positions?
steady.
I'm sorry,
Correct.
Mhm.
That holds it
That's
steady,
how it
that
Holds it
creates a
steady,
flat
right.
budget,
Right, right.
which in its own way
That
is
makes
too
sense,
bad
yeah.
because it means we can't add in places that need adding, unfortunately. But that's where we are. But yes, it holds us steady.
Kimberly, did you wanna say something?
Yeah, I had something different to say, but hearing your point, I appreciate the compassion and the thoughtfulness for teachers, and I think we all hold that and people's jobs really seriously and close to our heart. I think the thing that concerns me about, we don't have any idea. We're kind of shooting in the dark. We don't really have any idea what number the town council is going to say, great, that sounds good. So I think, we could go in with 2.1% increase and be told that's we need to work it down, and we really haven't solved anything by coming. So I guess my position and my hope is that this town's gonna come together and really let the town council know how much they value the schools, how much they value the education, how much they value our community, because I think the schools are really the crux of it. I mean, we don't wanna be a town with a beautiful new library and schools, buildings that are crumbling, and, students aren't getting the fabulous education that we presently are able to provide. So I guess my inclination is that I really want, I think even, if we're not replacing, if we're not rehiring, if people are retiring and we're not rehiring, that's the beginning of eroding, what we have.
Right.
And it's not gonna be easy in another year to say, well, let's put that back in the budget. I don't, I think, I feel like we have to hold on really tight to what we have, and hopefully at some point, our leaders in the state will have, better intentions towards public education, and we can work on improving. But for right now, I feel like we just have to hold on so tight to what we have. And so I feel very strongly that 3.2% putting forth no improvement in what we're offering, but no decrease. I don't know. There we go. That's it.
So may I just, I have a question and I have a response. So are you saying that you lean toward going in with 3.2 because if there's going to be a hit, take it off of that rather than off of the 2.1? Okay, thank you.
I feel the same way.
Okay, so just to be clear about absorbing retirements, which I think we can do that. I don't think that that's draconian. But I want to be clear, we'll just stick with the Spanish teacher example.
There goes
So
Heather.
let's say we have a Spanish teacher retiring.
Ay, caramba.
That's right.
So we have a
there's two of them
Spanish
there.
teacher retiring. That doesn't necessarily mean that when we're all done, that we're going to let go of a Spanish teacher. It may be that there's another position, or it may be some other partial positions, but there'll be one less FTE,
Yep.
or, I'm sorry, full-time equivalent teacher in the budget somewhere that adds up to, I mean, I think that's not a bad thing.
Just
It-
stop there, Howard.
no one's-
Tape.
Oh,
Sorry?
tape.
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 Oh.